How's it going, guys? And welcome to the showdown between the Tomb Kings, led by ARKHAN the Black, and the Warriors of Chaos, who are going to be led by CACKLE Suneater. So this has definitely become one of my favorite matchups, and oftentimes it ends up being kind of a monster match. You're going to be getting Necrosphinxes and Ushabti, and they're going to be facing off against Dragon Ogres and CACKLE and Dragon Ogre Shaggus, and then it looks like there's actually a couple groups of trolls over here. So definitely should be a party. But as far as my army composition goes, in the front line, I do have a very heavy core of skeleton warriors. So against the Warriors of Chaos, Chaos Warriors in general, even if you look at the regular ones here with the axes and shields, they're pretty good in the front line. They have Forsaken, who can just massacre your front line. They have Chaos Warriors, they have Chosen. Pretty much all of the frontline troops are going to do really well against the Tomb Kings. I don't know, maybe Marauders would have a little bit of trouble against like Tomb Guards or Nehekar Warriors or things like that. But for the most part, the infantry fight is something that's really going to heavily favor Chaos. So in this match, I just wanted to kind of concede the front line. I was like, all right, you're going to get the front line. I don't really have a chance anyways. So let's invest a ton of money in my constructs, my back line. So you can see I do have 3 groups of the Ushabti Greatbows. So these guys are very solid against Chaos. So they have good armor-piercing missiles, 124 damage on this group. I think the Chosen of the Gods have a little bit less, but they do have that kind of spray attack that's very good against infantry. But I figured these guys would be good at picking off Shaggus, good against armored Chaos infantry, and if they do have to, end up fighting Forsaken or Chaos Warriors, these guys are pretty solid in melee themselves. And Forsaken, I think, are going to be a pretty common pick in this matchup, although he didn't bring any. He's bringing a pretty cool build with like trolls and trying something a little bit different. But I do think you're going to be running into a lot of Forsaken, so having a secondary line of Ushabti Greatbows, who even if they get caught by the Forsaken, they should be pretty durable, considering they have 35 melee defense as well as 100 armor. In the back, I do have ARKHAN the Black. Lore of Death has always been something that I think is, one of the more competitive lores of Magic against the Warriors of Chaos. They have very expensive units like Chaos Knights, and Chaos Warriors aren't, they aren't cheap either. So having that kind of faded unit to wear them down is very strong, and of course, Spirit Leech is very solid. So in ladder, I actually discovered this in this game, is that when you pick a Necrosphinx, you can only bring one. And if you want to get a second one, you have to pay for the Regiment of Renown. The Sphinx of Usef. I'm trying to get a dry, give up. So you actually have to pay for this bad boy right here, who's a little bit pricey. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to be using the Necrosphinxes to fight Shaggus. And this Sphinx right here, the Regiment of Renown, can actually, if I'm not mistaken, almost beat CACKLE, if not beat him. Because, CACKLE does have leadership, whereas the Sphinx is pretty much unbreakable. He will crumble, but he'll keep fighting to the bitter end. And oftentimes, CACKLE will rot off. So definitely very powerful. And CACKLE also did get a cost increase. I think he costs like 100 more now. So it's not like a huge nerf, but it definitely sucks, for CACKLE. In the back, I have 2 groups of Skeleton Spears just to support my big monsters, and that's pretty much it. So for my opponent, it looks like he does have Dragon Ogre Shaggoth here and CACKLE, as well as some regular Dragon Ogres, so a ton of anti-large. So if he can get these Dragon Ogres on top of my Ushabti without them being kind of impeded by the Necrosphinxes here, he should be in pretty good shape. On top of that, CACKLE's pretty strong. Obviously, a pretty good focus fire target for the Ushabti Greatbows, but he hits like a truck and definitely put down a lot of the Tomb King's powerhouse constructs, and looking forward to seeing him in action. In the front line, he does have a ton of Chaos Warriors, so these guys, obviously, like I said, Chaos Warriors in general are going to just massacre the front line of the Tomb Kings, and he's actually bringing Chaos Trolls, which is something I saw them and I didn't really know. I was like, what do I can shoot them, take them down? I was just kind of like something I hadn't seen in a long time, and he has so many juicy targets to shoot at. So I almost felt like I wanted more Ushabti Greatbows, but I felt like 3 was probably good. So that's pretty much it. He does have Lore of Death in the back, definitely pretty solid. Lore of Death is just always so good. Spirit Leech, is going to be helpful for bringing down my Lord. ARKHAN, pretty good against Necrosphinxes. Fate of Buna, not as good against Tomb Kings, but regardless, the Spirit Leech should be pretty good. So let's get the show on the road. So you can see the Warriors of Chaos are advancing, and I'm pretty much doing all of the harass I possibly can with my Ushabti Greatbows, just shooting into the Trolls and the Chaos Warriors. The damage wasn't as much as I would like initially, but there's a pretty good volley right there on those Dragon Ogres, and you can see they're going to be pushing up here pretty aggressively. He does get a nice Spirit Leech on ARKHAN the Black, and you can see the Dragon Ogres are getting pretty crunk, just looking forward to pushing through these skeletons. I don't really have too much stopping power in the front line, so the Dragon Ogres can kind of do as they please, but I'm getting a ton of great crossfire right there, and you can see the Necrosphinxes are just going to take these guys to Pound Town right now. Necrosphinxes, I think I'm trying to think of like all the monsters units. So you have like Hellpit Abominations, you have Harrow Titans, whatever they're called. You have all those kind of like large beasties. I really think that these guys might be the strongest for that kind of cost bracket. So the Dragon Ogre is getting cleaved asunder. You can see like 2 attacks there, take out 2 Dragon Ogres, a ton of HP damage. The CACKLE's coming in, definitely a good target for my opponent. I'm not sure, no, he doesn't have Star Crusher, but he's going to be getting in there against the Necrosphinx and hopefully doing some pretty good job. But you can see, man, he takes some work right there. And he does pop the Star Crusher. So if he decides to turn around and start bashing on my Sphinx, that could be pretty strong. So in the back, he does get these Dragon Ogres onto my constructs. Definitely a good play here. You can see I immediately lose one of these Chosen of the Gods. They do come with 9 models, so these Dragon Ogres just laying a wampum on him in that charge. But I do have my Sphinx back here, and you can see he's definitely going to cleave some of these guys, and pretty much every attack he makes is going to take out one of the Dragon Ogre models. So there's one. That one was a little bit of a miss. I think they still have 8 models there, so his melee attack must not have rolled. Well, it's not, I don't know if it's technically a roll, but right there he's able to, looks like he makes pretty good contact, at least doing a ton of HP damage. And the Ushapti, you know, aren't pushovers themselves in melee, so they should be able to support this guy. But you can see he's quickly making heavy work of these Dragon Ogres down to 7 models, and they're probably going to rout off here pretty soon. My opponent coming in hard with the Trolls, definitely some cool stuff. I mean, they're mobile and they have AP, so on paper they seem like a pretty good choice. Granted, their leadership is pretty poor, and I think all of the Tomb King's units do cause fear at the very least. And you can see the Trolls are going to be chasing off my Ushapti Greatbow, so definitely some cool stuff for my opponent. I like the inclusion of the Trolls. Seem to be pressuring my back line pretty aggressively. They're fast with 54 speed, so they can actually chase the Chosen of the Gods, which is really cool stuff. I think against like a very heavy skeleton firing line, they might go down pretty quick, especially since they're like the unarmored variant, but I really like that inclusion. It was definitely very cool. Regardless, the Sphinx right here, the Regiment Renown, was able to do massive damage against these Dragon Ogres, but of course they have they're able to outmaneuver me a little bit. It looks like I do get caught up here with my Necro Sphinx. They do turn very slowly, so you can see him turning around here. ARKHAN the Black just riding around on his haggard chariot, just cackling as he rides through the Warriors of Chaos. But this one Necro Sphinx here does get healed with the Tomb Blade of ARKHAN. But Kolek and his Dragon Ogre buddy were able to just lay an absolute wampum on this guy. So the main thing I wanted to do was really secure my back line and just kind of free up my Ushapti bows. But you can see these Dragon Ogres putting in a ton of work right here. Ushapti are doing pretty good, but regardless, this is a very good matchup for them. But I do have some good crossfire going on. So you can see the Ushapti Greatbow on the far side right here are going to be turning and shooting, just teeing off on something. I know they're either shooting at Kolek or the other Shaggoth right there. Definitely, good targets all around. But the Chaos Warriors in the front line have obviously crumbled the skeletons. If you guys take an overarching look at the battlefield, you can see right here it was just obviously a huge wash. But it's a very even battle. And I do get my Ushapti summon right here, so you can see these guys are going to start just cleaving, and yeah, very cool attack animation. I know I say that every time we cast like an Ushapti game, but I feel like it's worth a little bit of slow-mo action right there. Look at that one. He's getting all hog wild up in there. But a very pitch battle right here. You can see Kolek does take a bunch of damage from the Sphinx right here, and I also do get a Spirit Leech. So Kolek is pushed off. Balancing Power is pretty much dead even. Granted, I do have a summoned group of these Ushapti, so once they wear, degenerate, the Warriors of Chaos are definitely going to pull ahead, or at least even out the Balancing Power just a little bit. In the front, these skeletons still holding pretty well. These Ushapti here were unfortunately the sacrificial lambs. I just didn't have enough troops to kind of defend them. I spread a little bit thin, and my opponent was putting really good pressure on my back line. The Ushapti Greatbow right here, you can see there are 5 models here and there's 9 here, so they're actually in pretty good shape and tons of ammunition because they were kiting and fighting this whole time, so that's a really good sign for me. Right here, this Sphinx is going to be fighting against a Dragon Ogre, so at this point I was kind of like, I need to get rid of the Dragon Ogres. I can't afford to just like, I can't play that game. Like if Dragon Ogre lives, he's just going to be hunting down my Ushapti Greatbows, who are going to be kind of my lifeline here, because they could potentially kite the Chaos Warriors and just shoot into them with the spread arrows from the Chosen of the Gods. So I pull an ARKHAN and I just go balls deep and try and take out this Dragon Ogre. And you can see this Sphinx, and that's what makes them so good, is they don't break. They're a vampire count unit, well, not vampires, but they're undead, so they're going to crumble. So they're going to last a little bit longer as it pertains to their leadership. And that's just the edge you need to get like 1 or 2 more attacks to really push off that Dragon Ogre, and I think that's what makes them a better unit. So this Dragon Ogre here down to 193 HP. You can see I just pulled in the Chosen of the Gods and everything I could. You can see this true patriot of the Tomb Kings crumbling back into the earth there. And this guy looks like he's pretty much crumbled off. So at this point, it's pretty wild. I do have my Skeleton Spears over here chasing off these Trolls, and definitely a good engagement. These Trolls only have 40 armor, and I thought they routed off. So at this point, I actually I just moved them back to the main fight. And unfortunately, the Trolls are going to be able to regenerate, which is a huge bummer. I wish I had chased those guys off. So the Ushapti here do get the Fate of Buna cast on them, but they're in pretty good shape, and Fate of Buna is obviously not that great against like low model entities like these guys. So I'm getting some pretty good shots here. You can see the Trolls are getting chased off by that missile fire, and we're going to go ahead and fast forward as there's some posturing and positioning. So right now, I'm just kind of lining up my shots with the Ushaptis. I'm just basically going to use all of my ammunition, and then I'm going to engage and use ARKHAN to charge in there and get a little bit wild. Because in the meantime, I used the spears to chase off the Chaos Trolls, and I knew I needed these spears in the main fight. I was out of Realm of Souls, I was out of all my Ushapti summons. He still had some Dragon Ogres coming in here, so in my desperation, ARKHAN the Black is going to be using the Spirit Leech just to take these guys down, because they're the one threat to my Ushapti, aside from the Chaos Sorcerer here, who can catch them. So I do get rid of the Dragon Ogres. The Spirit Leech and the Crossfire from these Ushapti Greatbows on the far side was able to do some pretty good work, and of course ARKHAN just being everyone's favorite Haggard Necromancer here, just riding through on his chariot. Oh man, chariots are just always funny. I don't know what it is about them, but they're just always ridiculous looking. So the Ushapti are going to be cutting back right here. I do pop that physical resist because I thought I might get surrounded there, and I decided to charge in with that. So you can see a little bit of charging to shooting, and then the skeletons are coming in. So now that this is kind of the final fight, the Skeleton Warriors are going to be holding back the Hordes of Chaos. 106 models, but the Chaos Warriors are shaken. They're very low across the board. He does have some Trolls coming back, but I do have that, Ushapti Fire, which I'm going to be switching to the Trolls in just a moment, because these Trolls could obviously take the Skeletons to pound down pretty hard. They will here, but I do turn around to fight the Trolls. I wanted to break them real quick. Their leadership is pretty horrible. The Death Sorcerer here doing a pretty good job coming in and getting that charge against, the Skeleton Spearmen. And just like Vampire Counts, the Skeletons have terrible leadership, as most undead low-tier units do. they're probably going to be crumbling here. Yeah, it looks like they're crumbling negative 22. So ARKHAN, though, is in pretty good shape. Bounce of Power is pretty much dead even. Just now pulling in my favor. I'm getting a lot of good fire with the Ushabti. So basically, I wanted to, like, get my Skeleton Spears, get the Chaos Warriors blobbed on them, and then shoot in with the Chosen of the Gods, my other Ushabti. So when they're blobbed on those Skeleton Spears, I can then, you know, get the massive value from those Ushabti fires. And of course, the Chariot can come in and just wreak massive havoc right there. And you can see the Warriors of Chaos are actually getting pretty tattered from that kind of atrocious play here. So ARKHAN the Black just riding around, just kind of using those Skeleton Spears, all 25 of them, as a bit of a crutch there. But yeah, they're pretty much done for at this point. ARKHAN does get Spirit Leech cast on him, but there's not many Chaos Warriors left. And these Ushabti, like I said, are very good in melee. So I'm about to run out of ammunition. So my opponent and I, it's kind of like a gentleman's agreement. We're like, all right, we're gonna line up and have the final duel. So I get these guys going here. You can see they're lining up next to ARKHAN the Black. And my other group, the Chosen of the Gods, is going to be coming in. So what are their stats? So 33, 45, and 65. So a little bit better in terms of their raw combat stats to the regular Ushabti. But it's the time. They're charging in. It's the final countdown. So the Warriors of Chaos are going to fight these guys. And definitely a very, very epic battle. And the Bounce Power is still dead even. It's kind of hard to tell how it's going, but the Death Sorcerer is going to be pushing in. He does hit pretty hard. My Ushabti are very low, but thankfully, these are all regular Chaos Warriors. So they don't have good armor-piercing values. And ARKHAN the Black on his Chariot is just a terror in the night. So he's going to pop that giant physical resist, which is really going to give me that kind of a, you know, fourth quarter. And I had the Tomb Blade of ARKHAN, which is a really good item. I think you should always bring it in and abuse fire damage, which is cool. But it also heals constructs and nearby units. So you can see that heal sets me above. I get so much healing, and I also think it resurrects, you know, units. So if you reach the healing cap per model, you can actually resurrect these Ushabti, if I'm not mistaken, which is just insanely powerful. So that's going to be it. A very, very close game. Very well played to my opponent, Nanamashos. That was a great one. It was a lot of fun. I kind of like the idea of, you know, yielding the front line in Chaos and playing with the Ushabti Great Bows and getting, you know, the most value I could out of those Necrosphinxes. But his build was pretty cool. Dragon Ogres were really pressuring my back line. They were able to go to Pound Town on some of my Great Bows. Trolls were an interesting inclusion. Like, it was kind of an X factor. And of course, you know, everyone's experimenting with builds, but I really wasn't expecting them. I was able to get good focus fire in my Skeleton Spears. We were able to kind of neutralize them, but I think it was a cool inclusion. The one thing I might change, I like Kolek. I'm not a huge fan of these Dragon Ogres. I honestly would prefer, like, I don't know, Chaos Knights. Although the anti-large is probably a little bit better against Tomb Kings, but maybe even just like Hounds or, you know, I don't know. I'm really just not a fan of regular Dragon Ogres, but they can get really good surrounds. That's the thing about them. Their models pile in pretty well, so I haven't played Chaos in a while, so perhaps that's the direction to go. I'll have to play this matchup from the other end to really get a good taste of that. But yeah, I mean, this stuff was all pretty cool and was effective, but I think the regular Chaos Warriors were a little bit kind of lackluster. Obviously, they beat down the Skeletons, but aside from that, they weren't terribly effective against the Constructs and big armored monsters. I would honestly just bring, like, Halberds. Like, you could bring a couple, you know, just Chaos Warriors with Halberds, and they would have just probably been able to massacre me in that final fight there. I wouldn't have been able to break them with that charge defense, and they would have been really good against the Sphinx of Usek, something like that. That was pretty good. I think I might have gotten it. But regardless, very well played to my opponent, Nanamashos. We've played many glorious battles, and he always brings pretty cool builds for sure. So looking forward to our next showdown, and thanks again, man. So hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing ARKHAN the Black and Kolek have their glorious showdown. And I think we got some... I'm going to be jumping back to my Dwarf campaign pretty soon here, so... I know it's been an eternity, but it's actually going to happen. So bear with me, guys, and we'll have some fun. So thanks again for watching, guys. Have an excellent night, and take care.